This is one of our Panasonic DVX100s. We have 3 of these at one time. They're fantastic cameras. They're actually sort of basically the best of its class, the prosumer market between consumer and professional. And we have had, I think, about 6 or 7 of these over the years, and we've loved them. Our members love them. They're great to use. They're beautiful. This is being shot on a DVX100 right now. And so this is the box. Now you find a couple of things inside the box. One thing that you'll notice is that there's headphones. There's supposed to be headphones here. There's also a little compartment for remote for the cameras. This is where the AC adapter / battery charger goes. Batteries go in here, and the wall outlet goes in there. And this is where the battery charger goes. So it plugs in to the back, to the front here, and this will get connected to where the battery goes. This is the AC battery power unit, and that gets put into this slot here. Just be careful to put everything in back the way you want it, and you know, roll it up or coil it up. Most of our cables have a natural memory to them, so they'll have like pre-built bends. Try to follow those, please. Now this gets put into the same place. It's like, you know, playing one of those kids games where you have to put in all the shapes into the holes as quickly as you can. This is the wall power cord here, as well as 2 batteries. Now there's 2 sizes of batteries. There's this size and this size. Okay, the big battery will last you between 3 and 4 hours, maybe more depending on whether you're using LCD or whatever. But you should keep in mind, older batteries will not last as long, so don't trust that. And batteries are often not charged when you get them, so it's a good idea to, before your shoot, to take them home and just charge up all of the batteries in case you need them. At best, try to make sure that there's some sort of a wall outlet where you're going to be working, so you can charge some batteries on the fly if you need to. And this is, of course, the pièce de résistance, the camera. Most of our cameras have lens caps, and the lens caps are usually attached by a string, and they plug in here. This particular one doesn't, but if they do, please keep good track of it. If you do have a lens cap, one nice thing you can do, if you don't want it just dangling on a string, is take it off, and there's a clip on the back of it that you could slide in back here. And so the next bit here that we have to see, I'm just going to show you the quick overview. So this is the lens. This is what you point at whatever you're trying to record. And this is the viewfinder, which is what you can use to look at whatever you're trying to record. This is the LCD screen, which you can also use to look at what you're trying to record. This back here, behind the eyepiece, if you move it up, you get a compartment. This is where the battery goes, or alternatively, if you're trying to plug off of wall power, this goes in the back here as well. Line it up properly. So in this case, there's 4 little signs here. They line up with these 4 little boxes here. You just put it in, and you press it down until you hear a click. The click sounds like that. And there's a little button in the back here. It says push on it, if you can see it. If you push on it and lift the battery up, it pops out. Now let's just put the battery in, put the eyepiece down. This is the this is the on-off button. Turn that to on. Press down the button in the middle and you turn it on. This red button is a record button, obviously. And we're up and running there. Now, one thing to keep in mind is when you're loading tapes, the way this works is there's a blue button on the top here, and that pops up. And there are 2 inner doors. Now, you want to check whether the inner door says the word push on it. So you put in the tape, you push it in, wait for it to go down, so until it stops making the servo sound, and you close it up. Do not, and I repeat, do not, so usually when it opens up, it just opens up part way, and you have to open it manually to get it up. Do not use the outer door to try to cram them both closed. It's a very expensive repair, and the camera will be out of service for a long time. So, inner door first, and then you close it, and the battery's loaded, and you're good to go. Here are the zoom buttons. These do not apply if you've got servo zoom on, and I'll get to that in a moment. Here you have audio inputs, so if you have an external audio source, such as a boom mic or another kind of a microphone, you can plug these in here. Behind this little plastic tab here, you have your outputs, so you have standard RCA, so you can connect it to a TV or whatever, S-video, as well as a FireWire port. Now, please, 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 please do not use the FireWire port on the cameras. It's the motors in the cameras, and to get them replaced is very expensive. You're much better off using a deck or borrowing one of our cheaper cameras to use as a deck to capture your footage. Another thing to keep in mind is that if you absolutely have to use this, make sure that the camera is turned off and then connected using the FireWire 4-pin to a 6-pin or 8-pin or whatever you have on your computer. Connect the two, but make sure the camera is off until after you've connected it. So you can turn it on after you've connected it, but do not have this on when you're connecting the FireWire port. Otherwise, likely to blow the FireWire port. That's a couple of $100 repair, and the camera's out of service for minimum 4 weeks to sometimes even longer, because a lot of these repair jobs require parts that are specialty, or parts, sometimes they need to be sent away. One of our microphones was gone for 3 months, and it went to Germany to be fixed. It's a Sennheiser, and it's traveled more than I have, by the way. But so please, please, please be very careful with this. This is a $4,000 piece of gear, and it's not really, I mean, the money is fine. The money is like that, but really what it is that if this camera has to go into the shop, then people can't make movies. And that's what we're here to do, and that's what we're here to facilitate people doing, and that, you know, that just sucks. Now, continuing on, on this side here, you will find, of course, actually, let's go to the back here. You'll find a whole bunch of different scene settings here. So F1, which is pretty standard video, to F6, which is usually 24p advanced, and I won't go into those. And a button down here that's VCR camera. That if you press, it switches to camera mode, and if you press it again, it switches to VCR mode. And VCR mode just allows you to review the footage you've captured, or rewind the tape, or whatever you like. Continuing on the side here, here are the controls for the VCR mode that if you're using that. Here is the menu button, and if you open up the LCD screen, you'll find a whole bunch of other stuff in here as well. Inside the LCD screen hatch here, you'll notice that there are two buttons, two switches that are mic power 48 volts. This is phantom power. Now, what this is that some microphones need power to be coming from whatever source that they're plugged into. Other microphones don't. Ones that don't are called dynamic microphones. The Audio Lapis handheld stage mic that we have, that doesn't need power. The boom mics do need power. The lavalier mics do not need power. Now, it's very, very important. If the device that you're working with does not need power, turn this off. It can seriously damage the device you're working with, especially if it's a mixer. If you've hooked into a mixer here and you're sending it power and it really doesn't need power, you could damage the material. And you could also ruin your shoot because you would get interference and distortion that you cannot fix. So that's why it's always a good idea whenever you're capturing sound that's one of the reasons why we include headphones inside the cases, is if you flip down this little black tab here, you'll find a headphone jack. It's a great idea. We've got headphones here. You can just plug in your cheapy iPod or whatever headphones here as well, just to listen to the audio as you go through. And it'll also help you figure out what audio levels are good. You also have an audio meter here, but that's not necessarily always accurate. Listening to it is the best way to go about it. So phantom power, turn it on or off depending on what gear you have plugged in. Now, the inputs here, the way they work is channel 1 and channel 2 inputs can be set to either the internal microphones, the camera microphones, right and left at the front here, or they can be set to input 1 and input 2 respectively. So input 1, input 2, or they can both be set to input 2. So if you've got, say, a boom mic that's providing all of the sound in a shoot, and that's all you need, you just plug it into input 2, set both of the inputs to input 2, turn on phantom power for input 2, and you'll get good sound. Now, make sure that you're listening to it to make sure that you're getting good sound there. So that's something to keep in mind. Continuing on, ND filter. This is where it is. Often somebody previously will have set the ND filter and they won't, you won't know about it. And ND filter just cuts out the light. It's like putting sunglasses in front. And here is the iris button, which switches from auto to manual. And this wheel here either closes down or opens up the aperture. I can't go into much detail in this. Take a workshop with the wonderful Chris Jardin. And white balance here as well. If you go down to preset and press the AWB button at the front here, that switches it from daylight to indoor lighting. And you'll just have to sort of guess out what looks better. You can also set it. You can also set your own white balance by going to A or B, but I wouldn't recommend that without instruction. Video gain, unless you really, really need it, always put it to low or off, because it makes your video look really grainy. It's sort of it makes you look there like the Blair Witch Project. Looks at really grainy, but I mean, if that's the look you're going for, great. If not, then it's not a good idea in most situations. Now this here is the auto button. If you press this button, it sets everything in the camera to auto, and this is like if you really need to pick up and shoot, just hit auto and it'll set the focus to auto, this will set the iris to auto, it'll set everything to auto, and it'll basically make it a lot easier to use. Continuing on, this is the focus button. You can switch between auto, manual, and then set it based on what the camera's internal focus meter thinks. When you're in manual, sometimes you need to refocus very quickly, and you can just press that button down to set it to infinity. My bad. It's not what the camera thinks. It's infinity. You can leave that in auto. The next thing here, this is the zoom ring. Now this is very important. These zoom. You can see the zoom ring moving when I press the zoom buttons. T means telephoto, that means zoom in. W means wide angle, means zoom out. Now, the thing to keep in mind here is that you can also manipulate this manually. The way to do that is not to just grab it and force it. You're likely to break the servo mechanism. Again, it'll have to go out. Again, it'll be a month to more, and people won't be able to make films. Now, if you want to do it manually, there's a button at the bottom here. It says zoom, servo, and manu. Okay, so manual. It says manu, but it's supposed to be manual. And you can, so it's set to servo right now. I switch it to manu, and now this moves freely. And I can zoom in freely. And if I set it back to servo, this is not moving. This won't move. You can move it, you can force it, but then you'd break it. So in general, with our gear, don't force anything. Our gear is designed to work as easily as possible. The next thing up is a focus ring. And if you're using manual focus, that's important. In autofocus, it also sometimes has an effect if you want to focus more quickly or whatever. One thing to keep in mind, when you take a camera, when you take the camera home for the first time, I would recommend that you you just borrow this for a certain time period just to play with it. Take it home, shoot some footage, buy some tape, just shoot some footage and get a feeling for what everything looks like, how it works and stuff like that, because playing with it is probably the best thing. I've shown you the things, how you can not screw it up, so that way playing with it should be fairly safe. If you go into, generally a good idea to do when you first get the camera is open up the LCD panel. And if you look here, there's a little button inside that says reset. And if you take a pen or a paper clip or something and you press that in, it resets the camera back to factory settings. Now, because the thing is that this camera is very highly configurable, and many of our members have very specific usages for this camera. So what they'll often do is set it for this, crazy settings that work great for them, but it's not going to work so great for you. Reset it when you take it home, and that way you'll have the default settings to work with, and that way you'll be able to work with that. And you can continue. You can change the settings as you would like, but it's always a good idea to set it to default. Otherwise, you'll find out, for some reason the whole thing had been shot in the wrong white balance, or the auto button doesn't work right because somebody changed the white balance on that, or low gain is actually high gain because that can be changed as well. And or you find that the zoom and power buttons on the top, which allow you to go like that, the record buttons, so you can actually do skateboard style video, they don't work because somebody turned those off. And there you have it, the Panasonic DVX100. Like I said, that's just an overview. I tried to give you a bit of an overview so that you should be able to grab this and shoot something, but it's not gonna, the more subtle technicalities of it, it's important that you take a workshop or you look online for information on this. This is a very highly popular, extremely popular camera, so I'm sure you'll find information on this. Now, before you take this, before you turn this put this away, you have to turn it off and then wait a few seconds. And you should do this at the beginning as well. You should put the battery in, wait a few seconds, and then press, and then turn it on. Now I've turned it off, wait a few seconds, and now I'll take the battery off. That just helps protect some of the electronics inside from voltage shocks. I don't know, I'm not a technician. Panasonic technicians told us it was a good idea. And you have to take the battery out. It will not fit in the case without the battery, sorry, with the battery on, and you can just put it back to where you thought it should go. Now, please note that the way it goes in is like this, and there you have it, the Panasonic DVX100.